Man, you gotta love these Picea engelmannii, Abies, lasiocarpa before you can find up here in the Wasatch. I think at this particular site, it's mostly Picea engelmannii or the Englemann spruce. Regardless though, I am on a north-facing slope in the Wasatch this time instead of a south-facing slope. I think this is a Days Fork trail. But regardless, because of that, the microsite is a lot wetter here than it is in my previous Wasatch Flora video, so we're going to find some different plants today. It's also later in the season, of course. Some of the more observant you might already be able to see some of these differences, but regardless, let's see what cool plants we can find. Here's a pretty typical Wasatch meadow, although it's a bit more wet of a microsite than the one I showed you in the previous video on Wasatch Flora I made. It's got a lot of the same plants, but there are some differences because of this, and it seemed to be growing a lot taller, although it is also later in the season, so they have definitely had more time to grow in general. For starters, we do have the Mertensia ciliata in this meadow as well, the lovely mountain bluebells. Stands out against the rest of the plants with its blue leaves from a distance, though of course it's named after its wonderful blue flowers. They're mostly finished blooming here, and they're quite a bit taller. This one's almost up to 3 foot here, while the other one's like 1.5 feet in that other drier meadow on the south-facing slope. We also have, like that other place, lots of cow parsnip, or Heracelum maximum, or Heracelum lanatum. It's called both. Scientific names are a bit annoying at times, and you can see it's sticking, those white compound nibbles are sticking above the rest of the flora here. So it's about 4 foot tall here, but it can get up to 6 foot or even, I think 10 foot. I've only ever seen it up to 6 foot, but 10 foot I hear is the maximum. Maybe even taller than that, I don't know. I'd love to see one, but I haven't had much luck finding really large specimens out in these mountains. And we also have the Urtica dioica, the stinging nettle. I don't want to get too close to it though, because, not because I don't want to get stung by it, but because there's these thistles, which I did not find in the other meadow, growing all over the ground. I think it's probably Cirsium eatonnii. It's hard to tell without getting a better look at the leaves, or flowers I should say actually. You can see the leaves of course, but they really need to look at the flowers to identify these thistles. Though Cirsium eatonnii seems to be the really common one out here. But yeah, that makes walking through this meadow really annoying, and you know, just to not want to trample the plants in general. I'd rather avoid getting prickled by these guys. I can handle a stinging nettle, but not thistles. What else? Okay, right there, if you can see it, I'll hopefully get a better view of it closer to the trail, is Lonicera invulucrata, calling it as Twinverry Honeysuckle, or just Twinberry, because it produces berries in sets of 2s. They're black and not edible. Really, honeysuckles in general aren't edible, so don't ever eat the berries. They're all poisonous. And it's a very common shrub in wetter areas, like with, I mean wetlands specifically, in these mountains. You find them growing along riverbanks and mid-elevations quite often, and wetter meadows like this. What else do we have? There's definitely some more, but oh, that's a good one. One of my favorite plants out here. This is Monkshood. It says Aconitum, columbianum. The whole Aconitum genus refers to the monkshood plants, but the specific species here is columbiana, or columbianum. I'm not sure which. I'll put it in the little corner species description. I always do. Regardless though, its name I think should be fairly obvious to see the flower. It's like a sort of, well, monkshood. The interesting thing about this is that it is one of the most poisonous plants you'll actually find out here. Monkshood are one of the most notoriously poisonous groups of plants in the world. I'm not sure if they're all equally poisonous, but it's certainly a very dangerous group. I think the only other ones you'll find are more toxic are species of hemlock, like not the conifer hemlock, but the Apiaceae hemlock, which were famously used to poison Socrates, I believe. So this plant is not much far behind. It's a super toxic one. I think it's safe to rush up against it, but you definitely don't want to ingest even a tiny bit of this plant. There's nothing good can come from that. I mean, all members of the family of Ranunculaceae are somewhat varying levels of toxic, but that I think is the champion of toxicity in that whole family. What else do we got? Larkspurs are pretty toxic too, and I think you'll see some as we go further along the trail. But yeah, that should give you a bit of an idea of some of the flora we have growing in this more wet meadow. Alright, now that's what I'm talking about. That's a really good example of monkshood that should make it very clear how it got its name. See the sort of hood part right there, and just the rest of the flowers. But regardless, that's about peak bloom appearance for this plant. Any early in the year, and there'll be just smaller flowers. Any older, and they'll be starting to fall off already, the petals. And you can get a good view of the leaves right there. Again, one of the most toxic plants in America, so don't even think about eating it at all. But Yeah, there's actually quite a few species of Aconitum, and again, I'm not sure if there's any variation how toxic they are, but again, it's not really worth it. There's literally no point to even mess with them at all. Beautiful plant though. Certainly, I say this a lot, but it's certainly a favorite of mine in the mountains out here. So I like all the plants with the sort of funny-looking flowers, like the Aquilegias and the delphiniums, both which are related actually. Speaking of that, Lonicera and invulucrata, here's an example of what's called twinberry commonly. There's just two berries right there, and that's pretty much how it always produces its fruits. Look at that, it's just how it does it. A little bit neat, I guess. But yeah, about as neat as two berries stuck together can be. That's the rest of the trunk. Once again, not really good eating those berries, so just don't try them. Always fun to walk through these meadows and trails until you start getting stung by the stingy nettle, which is growing quite tall here actually. And when the plants get larger like this, they don't really sting you as bad, but it can still be a bit annoying at times. I'm definitely feeling it a bit. I just love how tall this meadow is. The river is running a bit more further that way, but still definitely like a wetter microsite here at this particular location, and just in general on the north-facing slopes. Because of course the sun, the angle of the sun in the northern hemisphere hits north-facing slopes less directly. It's more about whether they face the equator or the poles, and in the northern hemisphere, of course, if you're facing north, you're facing the poles. So naturally, they get less sunlight, or sunlight at a less direct angle, so they heat up less and retain moisture because this doesn't evaporate as quickly, leading to wetter microsites as such. Oh man, we're going to aspen forest soon, it seems. That's some cool stuff there. It's pretty fresh too, or well, pretty young I mean. And there's the aspen forest. So aspens are actually pretty important out here because, well, for a lot of reasons. They're the most abundant broadleaf tree at higher elevations, really anywhere outside the mountain brush and like gamble oak belt. So these trees can grow anywhere from, like I say, about 7,000 to 10,000 feet up is where they'll produce solid stands normally. And what's nice about them is that they don't produce a harsh leaf litter like conifers do. Like a leaf litter from conifers is full of a lot of chemicals all plants can't tolerate and is often very acidic. So it doesn't foster a lot of plant diversity, the conifer forest, at least in the understory. So the broadleaf trees, which don't do this, are very important to providing habitat for a lot of plants because their leaves decay into a very nice fertile mulch, like the conifers. You can see that here with all the cool wildflowers you got, such as, well, here's another one I'm going to show you. This can grow a lot of places in the Wasatch. This is Agastache urticafolia. It's a member of the mint family, which you can sort of see by its flowers there. If only I could zoom in further. Oh well, regardless, that's sort of what the flowers look like. It's a big inflorescence with the two-lipped, typical mint family flowers. Its name urticafolia, nettle leaf, because its leaves look like both of us nettle. If you know what nettle leaves look like, you can sort of see there's someone's here about really a lot of leaves look like that in general. Regardless, I think it smells, oh yeah, it smells very minty. I mean, not every member of the mint family smells minty, but some of them do, and this one definitely does. Even though it's not even the true mint genus, which I think is like a mentha or something. And of course, we also got, I believe this is Picea americana, American vetch or American pea. It's got a few names, whatever. Could be a species of Lathyrus as well. Not entirely sure. It's most likely like Lathyrus pauciflora or Lansworthii, something like that. I don't know. I gotta look it up more. I think the Lathyrus is a plant with larger petals up here and are more of a pale pink. Alright, so it's a climbing plant that clings to often herbaceous species to get above them and just grow taller without expending as much energy as the honest, hard-working plants have to do to build a proper stem, such as this guy, Polemonium foliosissimum, another one that can grow pretty much on both sides of the canyons, wherever it wants. Remember the family of Polemoniaceae. Looks like a pea family member, just like the Picea is, but it's not. It really looks that way because of the compound leaves, but really if you look closely at the flowers, not even closely, just at all, you can tell they're definitely not pea. Well, hard to you can't really tell if those ones. Oh, hey, there's a better flower to show you what I'm talking about. See, that doesn't look anything like a pea family flower. I've never properly showed you what they look like, pea family flowers, but if you know even a little bit of botany, you would know what I'm talking about and can tell that that's definitely not the kind of flower you find there. So yeah, some more meadow plants out here, and like I said, this is partly helped by the fact that these plants do not have to grow in a duff of pine needles, which is extremely hard for a lot of plants to tolerate. Some do and are very adapted to it, but most don't like it very much. It's not blooming yet. Sesame is blooming earlier. This I'm pretty sure is Senecio Serra. Serra, serrate leaves. That's I think it's reference to. It's the probably most common, one of the most common wildflowers you'll find out here. And again, you find it on both sides of the mountains. In fact, I think I find it, or both sides of the valleys. I think most often I actually find this on the south-facing slopes. So hopefully I can show you them in full bloom soon there. Or also produce these yellow sunflower family flowers, as all members of Senecio seem to do. I think they're all yellow, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And it can get pretty tall too. This one I've seen them grow over my head, and even in the shade, which is very tall for wildflowers out here. Though, I mean, it happens, of course. It's not super unique that it does that. I mean, a cow parsnip does, of course, as well. But I feel like these ones grow taller more regularly than the cow parsnips do even. Which you can see ahead of us right here. Ooh, that's a bit washed out. There we go. Alright, let's keep moving. Okay, this is the highest I'm going to hike today. Rain is in the forecast, and I'm getting closer to the time it's supposed to rain. I mean, these clouds have been looking at me menacingly all day as I hiked, but it really is getting close to that time now, so I'm going to start heading back, but I'll still try and find some more plants for you guys on the way down. At least we got a nice lupinus here. I'll do that one for you. I don't know what species it is. I don't want to key it out. Most likely Lupinus argenteus or Cirsium. But I really can't tell the two apart. It's pretty difficult. You guys look if they have hairs on the how much hair they have on the back of the banner petal. So you can tell what lupines are if you don't already know. At least in this region, by their pea family flowers that are usually white or purplish or sometimes pinkish, I guess. And they're compound leaves that are, unlike most members of the pea family, palmately compound. So they're like the palm of a hand instead of pinnately compound, which is where we sort of branch off like many off of a single straight rod, I guess, almost like just leaves on a branch. All right, because I promised to talk about another plant species out here, this is Castellegia rexifolia. Not what the common name is, I don't care that much, but regardless, it is a paintbrush, as all members of Castellegia are, and it is a common name for that genus. And like all of those plants, it is a hemiparasite, which means it doesn't need to parasitize other plants, and it can photosynthesize on its own, but if it is able to parasitize, it will, and it'll grow much taller and healthier for it. And reasons definitely are because there's abundant plants around them, very clearly, so they have no shortage of options they can be stealing nutrients at the roots from. What they normally do is they just germinate, and they just grow normally, but the roots will try to aggressively search for other roots to latch onto and start sucking away nutrients from. While true parasites, they have to, I think, normally wait for other plants' roots to come in contact with their seeds, at which point they'll germinate and then start sucking away nutrients because, I mean, they have no other way to get any energy, so they can't even often germinate from the ground without parasitizing other plants. One way you can tell this one apart from other species out here is that it's bracts. You can see here, these aren't leaves with just pink on them, these are bracts, which I guess are technically modified leaves, but they subtend flowers and are somewhat modified to look like petals. They're very oval shape, not really linear or branched like most of the bracts in the various species are like. Actually very interesting about the whole Castellegia genus is that they have petals that are actually green and leaf-like and fused together, so you can maybe see it right here, just barely sticking out of the flower right there. But yeah, that little thing is actually the petals, while the sepals are those pink things fused into a tube around them, and of course they have these bracts subtending them, which are modified to be very petaloid and look like flower petals. Very interesting adaptation because it's almost always the sepals in various species of flower that are adapted to look like, well, other leaves instead of them looking like the petals. Pretty big reversal of the normal order of things, I guess. Hopefully I can find another species to show you what they can also look like. Now, if you guys remember talking about how that one Vitia could actually be a lathyrus, That was definitely not the case. I was just trying to be a bit cautious there, but this is definitely the Lapithris species. It's Lapithris pauciflora. And yeah, it's another member of a pea family that's quite vining. This one's, in general, a much larger plant than the Picea. It just gets larger leaflets. Oh geez, it's starting to rain. Anyways, it's larger leaflets. The flowers are larger and less tubular, and are purple here. There's a few ways to distinguish them, but regardless, it's another vining plant that has to climb on other plants to avoid making a strong stem that can stand up under its own weight. That's basically what vines do in general. That's their strategy, at least the climbing ones. So let's move on. I'm going to try to avoid getting my camera wet. Pray it does not start raining any heavier than this. Well, that's a bit of an abrupt way to end my video here, but I don't really want to keep recording in the rain. My camera can't handle it, so thanks for watching and see you next time, guys.